Hello everyone, Shalom, and we are today studying about Purim from the Arizal, Rabbi Zakloria, Sha'ar HaKavanot. So, of course, when you come to study Kabbalistically any topic, it has a different idea, it has a different aspect, of course, much deeper. So now, something that is interesting that will lead us into the understanding of the topic is when it says in that drush, in that study, "V'ata navo al biur inyan yemei Purim." Now let us come to the explanation of the days of Purim, ve'ha-Megillah, and the Megillah, reading the book of Esther, ve'ha-Mordechai. If you notice, he's using, if you know Hebrew, he's calling Mordechai, one of the heroes of the Megillah, as a noun, ha-Mordechai. The Mordechai. Okay? Why is Rabbi Zakloria calling Mordechai as a noun and not as a person? Uma'ot mikbat Purim, and the money of the charity of Purim, ve'amishte v'asimcha, and the feast and the happiness and the celebration. Now, הנה נתבהר אצלנו בדורשי נוקבה דזעיר אנפין ובעניין מיעוט הירח. So Rabbi Zakloria is referring now to a very advanced Kabbalistic study that I can't go to the depth, that will take some few days. כי בכל זמן של הגלות עומדים זון אחור באחור כל ימי החול, לולי בשעות התפילה ובשבתות וכיוצא בזה. כמו שנתבהר שם, והנה כאשר רוצים לחזור פנים בפנים, צריך שתקדים בחינת הפלת הדורמית על זעיר אנפין, כדי שתעשה הנסירה ותוכל לחזור עמו אפין באפין, כנדרש בדרושי ראש השנה. I'll explain. Translate no way because it's too deep for our session right now. ולהיות כעניין מרדכי ואסתר בסוף ה-70 שנה של גלות בבל כנודע, לכן אז בימיהם התחיל עניין תיקון זון כדי לחזור אפין באפין ויגאלו ישראל. Okay. Now we have to understand, and that's what it is, that when we are talking about the Lurianic system, which means the way the Kabbalists, especially the system of Rabbi Zakloria, the Arizal, sees how the universe is structured, everything in the physical plane is manifested somehow from the upper plane. What above, so below. So as above, so below. Which means whatever we see politically, historically, economically, whatever, whether it's all a manifestation of something of spiritual aspect. How do we know it? The same way, when you see a person moving his hand, my rabbi used to say, you see my hand moving? Why did it move? There was a thought. Do you see the thought? No. But do you think that the hand will move without a thought? Of course not. So, what we understand is that if we see anything moving on the physical plane, there was something that moved on the spiritual plane beforehand, and that is the cause for the event in the physical plane. Now, if you want to change the way things are happening on the physical plane, you have to change the way they're happening on the spiritual plane. If you want to change somebody's way of walk, you have first to change the way he thinks. Right? He has a different posture. He doesn't walk properly. You know, somebody will say, you know, you have a backache because you're not walking in the right way. So first of all, you have to work on changing the way, the mind frame. Then the body will change. And you see, when somebody slouches, when somebody is walking crooked and whatever, you know he's thinking slouchy, and he's crooked also in the thinking. Because people that think, you know, let's go and do it, whatever, the body posture is different. So there is a connection. This is a mashal, this is like a parable, this is an example. The real world, it's much more sophisticated. However, the rule applies the same. Now, we are saying that the world that we live in, we can see few layers of behavior or consciousness within a person or within a society. Within a person, we have basically, as Rabbi Ashlag explains it, 4 layers of consciousness that we can speak about where is the person in a certain time. So what are the 4 layers? There is what is called, the lowest level is Hester Kaful, double cover, double hiding. It's coming from, in Deuteronomy, you have there over the Ki Aster Astir Panai Bayam Hahu, I will hide my face on that day. All the prophecies of calamities that you can find in the book of Deuteronomy. But the stage is connected to, it's called the book of Esther. Esther is the same letters, almost the same sound as Aster Astir. Why Aster Astir? Which means it's double hiding, double cover. What does it mean, double cover? Double cover, says Rabbi Ashlag, is a case that the person does not know that there is an order to the universe and everything functions by rules. You know it, you don't know it, you see it or you don't see it, or you understand it or you don't. It functions anyway the same way. Okay? That's a still. That's one cover. Double cover, you don't even know you don't know. Now, it's a big difference. When you don't know, you think, as when you read in Parashat Zachor, Asher Karcha Baderech. When you read about the Amalek, what does it mean Karcha Baderech? So many stages explain. Karcha comes from the word Kara Mikre, which means it happened. It happened by chance. There are no rules. There's only probabilities. And nature is run by nothing, just by forces and chances. The moment you are in that position, no matter where you are, you're down the hill. Emotionally. Why? Because you don't believe in any cause and effect. You don't believe that if you're going to be positive and loving, the world will be positive and loving towards you. This time, another time, later on. You don't think there's any connection of cause and effect between a person's consciousness and what happens to them. You don't even think that justice has nothing to do with reality. You might develop all kinds of ideas and ideologies, like during the 20th century it was like the most disastrous, that if everything is by coincidence and if everything goes by the rules of nature, so there's the rule of the survival of the fittest. And that's why communism and Nazism were based on that. Whoever is stronger has all the right to kill the others. And a human being is just an animal. And the same way animals kill animals in order to find place, whatever, we have all the right to do it because we have the power. If I have the might, I have the ability, and why shouldn't I do it? And the result was a few, maybe 100, maybe 200 million people were murdered. What about the misery that billions of people suffered? Just because of those nice, modern ideas. Today, we're in the aftermath. And in the aftermath, nobody believes in any ideology. Oh, but they do believe in ideology. Now the ideology is called narcissism and selfish individualism, which is the same idea again. If I can take, I will take. If I am strong, I can take over, and nothing will stop me because values are for the weak. This is how the world is run by a lot of areas of economy and so on. That's called Hester Kaful, double cover, double hiding. What does it mean? You don't know there are rules. You don't know that. The result is that you're totally disconnected from the light of life. And what's the result? No wonder the result is we have never been in an era that people are so depressed. Just look at the revenues of the pharma companies who make antidepressants, all kinds of antidepressant materials. This is the biggest gold mine in the history of mankind right now. Why? Why is it that people are depressed? When you're disconnected from the forces of life, and you don't even know you're disconnected. You have all the excuses. That's called double hiding. Hester kaful. Only one hiding is that you don't see justice. You're kind of upset because you don't know why things happen. It's like, God, why me, and so on. Your life is pretty miserable. However, you have this kind of a notion, maybe, all what I'm going through is because I'm not doing the right thing. So at least you're trying to improve yourself. There are many layers, many levels in that. So maybe you go through misery, you go through depression, you go through injustice. You see a lot of stuff outside of you, inside of you, whatever, but you still have an idea that maybe I don't understand, and that's why things happen to me like this. So I'm trying to give an excuse or to give an explanation, and I'm in there's a system. After you go, but these two esterim, these two covering and hiding, they're also called exile. Because the Hebrew word for exile, gola, means to roll over and disconnect. To remove away and disconnect. That's the meaning of the word exile, gola. Now, geula, which is redemption, means reconnecting. Very simple. Reconnecting. Now, the Kabbalists, I'm just explaining just right now the whole paragraph that I was just reading. Now, we know that what comes first? Disconnection. Then comes the connection. Because you have to earn the connection. The connection doesn't come for free. You don't just, when first you're disconnected from the telephone, and then you buy a connection, and then you get a SIM card or whatever, right? You have to make the effort, then you get the connection. Today it's very simple. Still people don't get it. The same way it is below, the same way it's above. Okay, so now let's continue. Now, the disconnection is also called back to back. There's a legend that says that when Adam was created, he was created, it says in Genesis 1, בצלמו בצלם אלוקים ברא אותו, in his image, the image of God, he created him, Adam, זכר ונקבה ברא אותם. Male and female, he created them. Which means Adam, in the beginning, that's even before God split Adam into two sides, Adam and Eve, they were created one. However, the legend says they were created one but back to back, like Siamese twins. What does it mean back to back? Double hiding. When you're back to the Creator, and the Creator is with his back to you, that's your feeling. We're not talking about the physical. We're talking, when you talk about two people that they are so alienated from each other, you say about them they are just back to back, which means they turn their backs to each other. No communication whatsoever, because somebody like this, he will not call you, he will not talk to you, even if you're in the same room, even if you're just almost touching each other, there won't be any access like this. Okay? That is the meaning of back to back. Now, when we are talking about that, we know that when there is a back to back, and that was in the beginning, but in the Genesis chapter 2, it says that God had to split them, and so they can get to be face to face, right? But there's something very important. All of that stories are huge, huge secrets of the way the universe is structured. Why? Because when you make a surgery, and that's what happened, right? Splitting between Adam and Eve. When you make the surgery, you first have to put the patient into sleep, right? You won't be cooperative if you won't put him to sleep, especially if you want to cut him into half, right? So it says in Genesis 2 that Vayapel Hashem Elokim al Adam Tardema, and God put sleep on Adam before he split him. Okay? Now, listen to that. Tardema in Hebrew, it's called in the Zohar Dormita, because in Aramaic Tardema turns into Dormita. But this word somehow migrated to Latin, and a lot of European languages are using dormant, dormita, dormir, whatever, as sleep. What is the definition of sleep by that? What happens when somebody is asleep? There is a split between his body and his soul. That's one thing. Another thing that happens is he's helpless. When somebody is asleep, usually people try, when they fall asleep, to be in a secured, locked place, because anybody can come and do whatever they want. You're not aware of it. That's part. So dormita is even worse than double hiding. Right? Now you have to understand, every time a person or a society is in a place of back-to-back, of no consciousness, exile, no awareness, negativity, things don't work, they don't fit together, you don't see justice, whatever, in order to move or shift from a stage of galut, gola, exile, disconnection, to a state of geula, you need to go through a dormita. And what is in dormita? As we said, it's a in-between time in which you are helpless and you can't protect yourself. Now, if you notice that in the history of the Jewish people, there are a few great eras of what we call golden ages or powerful ages, spiritual times and stuff like this, of revelation. If you notice, all of them are following back to back, following huge disasters. Let's start with Mount Sinai Revelation. Mount Sinai Revelation. The Torah was given on Mount Sinai. What can be bigger than that? What could be a higher? There was never a higher point like this in the history of mankind, that people and God were one. As we say, the legend is saying, it was a wedding between the Creator and the Hebrew nation. Correct? Nothing can be higher than that. But that had to follow terrible time of the slavery in Egypt. That was back to back. There was more than dormant over there. It was terrible disaster and total stage of no awareness whatsoever. No awareness. Because when we talk about how the Israelites got out of Egypt, they didn't do anything special to get out. That was a gift. Still, they had to go through a position of back-to-back in order to reach such a face-to-face total awareness of everything, which means knowing everything. This is a double revelation. It's not just that you know that God is here and everything is orchestrated and everything is for the good. You can see it with your eyes and you feel this intense pleasure because you feel connected to the Creator and to every aspect of the creation that He created, which is the highest level of the 4 levels. Now, the second time that we see something like this, destruction of the first temple, the Babylonian exile. Most of the Israelites are being exiled to Babel and Paras, Persia of today. A lot are being exiled to or flee to Egypt and to other places, but it's basically called the Babylonian exile. However, we'll come back to it. After that, when we're talking about Second Temple era, with after Ezra and Nehemiah and the intense blooming of wisdom and study, Knesset Gdolah, the Tanaim, the Moaim, the Mishnah, the Zohar, the Talmud, all of it came, that Knesset Gdola. That revelation, Rabbi Akiva, and before that, all the what we call in Masechet Avot, in the Ethics of the Fathers, everything was a result of that terrible time of the exile, which means that was like a reawakening. And now we're talking about the destruction of the second temple and the disaster of the destruction of the temple, and then that's the first rebellion, and then about Kochva rebellion, and all the misery that is being calculated with all the Harugei Malchut, the 10 martyrs, and hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of Jews were murdered, sold into slavery. Parts of Israel became totally Judenfrei, which means totally Judenrein, totally clean of Jews by law. And the colonization of the European nation became more intense, one rebellion after another. However, we see after that the Mishnah, the Zohar, the Talmud, which is like unprecedented revelation of wisdom and creativity. What do you learn from that? Let's go to the Spanish Inquisition. Again, a terrible disaster. The biggest Jewish community, in which was the majority of the Jewish people, lived in Spain and Portugal. The disaster was intense, was like nothing was left in Spain and Portugal. But you go to the century after that, the golden age of Tzfat. We have the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo. We have the Arizal and his writings that we're reading right now. We have the Kabbalat Shabbat, Rabbi Shlomo Youdkevitch, the Lechadodi. We don't know ourselves without that amazing spring of life that came out after that darkness of the Spanish Inquisition. And if we jump to our days, we had like this terrible back-to-back in the Holocaust. And you look at today's Jewish creativity in writing, music, building of communities, building of yeshivot, no precedence like this ever of so much creativity, so many people studying. It's like, and it's getting stronger and stronger every year, like nothing before in history. You see, this is how it works. You have to fall, you have to go to the back-to-back in order to reach the face-to-face. Same thing in a person's life. Many times you have to fall, lose everything, feel like this is the end of the world, just to come to a place in which you lose everything that you think you know, and then you start all over again, and you reveal a new world that you had no idea that even existed and was waiting for you. So this issue of back-to-back is very important, and when go back to Purim, says Rabbi Arizal, we are talking about after the destruction of the first temple. The destruction of this first temple was after the prophecies and the warning of prophet Yirmiyahu. And with all of his doomsday prophecies, he says also, don't worry, 70 years from now, you will see the temple rebuilt. So, there was an exile, and a few decades later, comes King Cyrus, Koresh, of Persia, and he says, God gave me the earth to rule, and therefore, I am giving now an order. So all the stolen accessories of the Beit HaMikdash, of the temple in Jerusalem, will be returned to the Jews. And I give them a permit to go back and to rebuild their country, their city, and their temple. However, that started. They went back, and it started slowly, slowly, slowly. However, there was a big movement of BDS at that time. There were a lot of lobbies. If you read all the documents from this time, they did everything possible to remove the government in Persia from giving the permit for the building of the second temple. Yes, a lot of Jews started to come back. Jerusalem was started to be rebuilt. Still, there was a lot of political pressure from the nations around, in the north of Jerusalem, in the south of Jerusalem, the Edomites, the north were the Shomronites, in the west was in the east, and there were lobbies in the government, and that was trying to boycott and to make the new Jewish community that was created in Jerusalem and around it, and the permit to build the temple was revoked. 70 years were coming to pass. The back-to-back had to turn into face-to-face. And before the back-to-back has to turn to face-to-face, you need to go through a dormita. Now, you read the Megillah, you read the story, and you see that the king makes a big party and everybody joins the party. The Jews in Persia, they joined the party. They have nothing to worry about. They were part of the Allied forces in the big world war that happened between the Babylonians, the anti-Jewish Babylonians who destroyed the temple and exiled the Jews, and the pro-Jewish Persians. Now, after the war, the Jews were on the right side. They were in the government. They were like everywhere in the great centers of power of Persia, right? They didn't think there's any lag. They have to go to Jerusalem. It's a third world country, Jerusalem. It's like, why should we? It's like, there's nothing over there that we should go. Well, we'll send the poor relatives. We send to Jerusalem. Yeah, so we don't have to have them on my head. But we'll send them some money. But we are here. We are celebrating, and they're celebrating, and they come to a place of total disconnection. On the outer face, it looks like everything is great. And then comes the amazing story. What does it mean, Dormita? How do we see it in the Megillah? We see it, whoever studies, in a Jewish school, heard it maybe in the kindergarten about the Dormita. How did you hear it? Okay, if you go to Jewish school, if you went to Jewish kindergarten, probably most chances that the teacher in the kindergarten taught you that Ahasuerus, the king of Persia, was stupid. Right? Isn't that the way you studied? Right? Why was he stupid? Do you remember? Well, because it says in the Midrash like this. It says that when Haman, the head of the BDS in Shushan, wants to destroy the Jewish nation, he comes to Ahasuerus and says, let's make a decree to kill and destroy all the Jews in the empire. And the Midrash is saying that Ahasuerus answers, are you kidding? Do you think I'm crazy? What happened to Pharaoh? Look what happened to the Assyrians. Well, look what happened to the Babylonians. I'm not going to put myself with them. Whoever messes up with these guys doesn't finish well. And I'm not going to join them. I'm not that stupid. Says Haman, Yeshno am mefuzar meforad. Yeshno, says the Midrash, means Yashen Vav. Yes, the Jews have a great, powerful God, but he's asleep. Yashen Vav. What a stupid king, and Ahasuerus believed in him. Says Rabbi Arizal in this language. V'noda ki Haman harasha, we know that Haman, the wicked, haya astrolog gadol, he was a great astrologer and a magician. כנודע בעניין ויפל פור הגורל מיום ליום, ובפרט כמו שנאמר בסוד הכתוב, כי הוא ועשרה בניו כוללים כל 10 קליפין החיצוניים. And he and his 10 boys, 10 sons, were including, they were a manifestation of all the 10 dark forces in the universe. Okay? וידע בחוכמתו, and he knew in his wisdom, עניין מיעוט השגחתו יתברך על ישראל בימים ההם. He knew that the nation of Israel is right now, in the whole world, is under dormita. Because the 70 years are almost over. And there is a real sleep. What does it mean, sleep? What happens to somebody who's asleep? He's totally helpless. They will go like sheep to the slaughter they would not even resist. Don't worry. Says Aman to Achashverosh, they are going to Dormita. We can kill them, and let's do it fast before the Dormita is over, and then it's too late. How do we know that? Look at the story. Yeshno is Yashen Vav. Okay, what is Vav? The letter Vav symbolizes the connection. It's like a line going up, down. The connection to the upper world. The Torah is our connection to the upper world. That's why every column in the Torah looks like a Vav. Every column in the Torah starts with the letter Vav, except from 5 places. There are only 5 places along the whole Torah in which it doesn't start with the letter Vav. Okay? Now, and so the letter Vav is the symbol of the connection to God, and therefore, when it says Yashen Vav, their Vav is asleep. Their connection is asleep. They would be totally helpless, and they wouldn't know how to get out of it. Therefore, Haman is an astrologer. He's trying to find out in the stars what will be the day the Dormita will reach its peak, and the helplessness of the Jews will be at its peak. And he gets the 13th of Adar. He announces a year ahead that in a year from now, we're going to kill every Jew in one day. And he's not afraid they're going to do anything about it because he saw in the stars. He made a little tiny mistake. Okay? What was his mistake? 2 mistakes. One mistake was that he published it too early. 2 days too early. Why? If you read the Megillah, he published it on the 13th of Nisan. And some Kabbalists explain that the same way that on Rosh Hashanah and till Yom Kippur, the whole world is being judged who's to live, who's to die, who's to be poor, who's to be rich, and so on and so forth. That's about Chaim, Banim, Umezonot. Life, children, family, and sustenance. That's in the beginning of the month of Tishrei. But in the beginning of the month of Nisan, which is Rosh Hashanah Lamlachim, it's the head of the year for the kings. This is the new year for wars, fights, struggles, and conflicts. On the first day of Nisan, it's being decided in the heavens about all the wars and conflicts that are going to happen, globally and individually, on the month of Nisan. On the 2nd of Nisan, it's being decided about all the wars and conflicts that are going to happen in the month of Iyar, the 2nd month of the year, astrological year. So it goes 12 days on the 13th. Why? Because it was a leap year. Haman looks at what was the result and he realizes that the worst time will be on the 13th of Adar. Okay? He didn't know one thing, that all of those wars and conflicts are sealed at midnight, full moon of Nisan. Midnight, full moon of Nisan, that night is the night of the Seder. What is Seder? Order. What's the opposite of order? Chaos and conflict. What is the Seder about? We are doing the Seder because we have a chance just before the universe seals for the coming year, we can put and inject in some more energy in order to put that chaos into control. So the whole thing of the Seder is overcoming what? What is number one cause of chaos? Selfishness. Selfishness, evil inclination. So, the rising dough, this is the symbol of selfishness. The matzah is the antidote for the selfishness. If you go to all the symbolism of Passover Seder, it's all about getting from slavery to freedom. A selfish person is a slave to his whims and emotions. A free human being is above it. It's all about, then, of course, a free human being does not fall into the conflicts and into the pain of the chaos, right? Everything. So Haman did not know that, but Mordechai and Esther know that. And that's why when Mordechai is crying and is mourning and Esther is saying, what are you doing? We have not so much to get the train. The train is leaving on midnight full moon. We have to start as soon as possible. And she says, go get all the Jews together. Fast for 3 days. What is the fasting? You eliminate the body. You make your body poor, like v'initem et nafshotechem on Yom Kippur. They turned Pesach into a long Yom Kippur. But they also did another thing. What is back to back? No connection. What is love, appreciation, giving and sharing and caring? That's face to face. Esther said, go get all the Jews together. We'll force the universe to change back from back to back to face to face. By fasting, eliminating our own body consciousness, sharing, and not just sharing, real sharing, gifts to the poor. Who do you give gifts to? Your friends. With eye level. You give charity to the poor. You know, condescending, patronizing. No, you give gifts to the poor. The same eye level. We are all one. There's no rich and poor. We are all the same. We need each other. That was the biggest miracle. Within 72 hours, 3 days, they made it happen. Why? They changed the rule in the universe because they changed the original data that was coming in before it was sealed. Everything was sealed totally. And remember one more thing. There was no Seder that night. Nobody sang the Arba Kushiyot. Nobody ate Maor that night. There was no Seder. There was nothing. That was the biggest strike in history. The angels were saying, God, where is the Seder celebration? We don't hear the songs. We don't hear Hallel. We don't hear people saying the bracha on the matzah and the maror. And the Israelites, the Jews said, you know, you hear that? If you're not going to do something, you'll never hear it again in history. We're going on a strike. You better do something. Otherwise, you'll never hear Hallel again. What was the result? One more thing. Says the Ari. והנה אף בזמן הדורמיתא, אין הנקבה ישנה. כי אז מסלקין המוחים מזה הפין נכנסים בנקבה כדי לבנות ותקן פרצופה, כדי שתוכל לחזור הפין בהפין. ובכך יש הערה והשגחה זו על ישראל מצידה, ועניין אותה הערה הייתה עניין מרדכי הצדיק, כמו שנבהר בעזרת השם. Still, even when someone is asleep, he's not dead. In the New Age, they call it, there's a silver lining, right? You heard, between the body to the upper world, through which the body is still connected to the soul. That silver lining is called Mordechai. We read it in Parashat Kitisa when it says about the incense in the holy ointment of the temple. It says it had inside, one of the ingredients is mor dror, translated to Aramaic Mira Dachia, or Mir Mordechai, which means Mordechai means pure light. There's a pure spark of light that is left even when you are asleep. That spark of light is the silver lining going up to the heavens. And that line is called hope. What's the shoresh of the word hope in Hebrew? Tikva, kav, a line. a line. So, and that's why it says, Vekovei Hashem yachlifu koach. The people who trust the Creator, it's like they're making a line, they're weaving a line to Him. They will have the ability to recuperate whatever happens to them. What is hope? Hope is attaching to that silver line that goes up to heaven. Mordechai was that silver line. That's why Rabbi Zakluria called Mordechai the Mordechai. Because Mordechai is a person, but he was manifesting that silver lining that is always there no matter how dark the situation might be. Haman sees Mordechai and he suddenly gets it. He was a very powerful spiritual person, metaphysical. He was a warlock, the biggest in the world at that time. He sees Mordechai, he knows as long as Mordechai is alive, we're not so sure. They still have that line, they still have that hope. That's why he comes to, he's so upset, he's coming home and his wife and his advisor, they say, let us make a wood, a pole, 50 cubits tall. You know how much is 50 cubits? It's almost 50 meters. It's almost 50 meters. That's like, you know, that's a building of how many stories? This is like very high, it's a high rise, okay? Why do they have to have something so tall? That pole was jinxed. Mordechai they wanted Mordechai to get him into the 50th gate of impurity. So there's no way to get him out anymore. But on that day, something happened. When the 72 hours of fasting and sharing and caring and unity were over, what does it say? What does it say in the Megillah? Uvalayla hahu nadeda shnat hamelech. Now, as we said in the Torah itself, the Vav represents the Creator, the connection to God. The Torah is the connection to God. However, in the Megillah, it's coded. It's all. Megillat Esther is Gilui HaEsther, revealing what is hidden. Most of the columns in the Megillah start with the word Hamelech, the king. Who is the king? The king of the world. So when the Megillah speaks about Achashverosh, that's the king of Persia. When it's speaking about the king of the world, it says the king. Okay? So what does it say? Haman goes to sleep. He gets up early in the morning with a death warrant to Mordechai, and he rises early in the morning to run to the king to sign the execution of Mordechai. But something happened that night. Uvalayla hahu, on that night, nadeda shnat hamelech. The king could not sleep. Which king? The 72 hours of giving and sharing did their job. The Dormita was over. And the universe has shifted from back to back to face to face. Now, the halacha says that this verse must be read very loud in the Beit Knesset, in the synagogue. Why? To wake up whoever fell asleep. Who could fall asleep with all the noise? What are you talking about? We're talking about the ones who fell asleep spiritually. This is what it is. This is the epicenter of the whole Megillah. This is when the whole story is transforming from back to back. Everything is dark, hopeless, and whatever. And how do we see that? So Haman comes in the morning with a death warrant, but the king couldn't sleep that night. And what did he do? Did he call belly dancing ladies to dance in front of him. That's the king of Persia. Hello, you don't know Persians. No, he wants to read the book. And he finds a book of memoirs. And he opens on the page that 10 years earlier, Mordechai saved his life. 10 years earlier, Mordechai saved his life. And he's saying like, oh my God, we never said thank you. We never said thank you. This is not nice. This is not nice. And he was troubled. How are you going to say thank you to Mordechai? Okay, I need an advisor. Who's in the court? Haman was waiting? Okay, get him in. Okay, Haman, you're wise, you're smart, you know everything. Tell me, what should be done to the person that the king wants to show everybody he cares for? Haman thinks. Who does the king think about? What? It's only me. I'm the greatest guy in the world, right? So I can take everything. Okay, he should get the king's horse and the king's dress and the king's gun and the king's scepter and the king's crown, everything. And somebody very important should take him around Shushan and tell everyone, this is the man. And the king says, you're so brilliant, I know you're brilliant. Go and do it to Mordechai. After he does it the whole day, he comes home totally upset. His wife is saying, what happened? Tell me. And he tells her. And what does she say? Vashti, what does Zeresh say to Haman? אם מזרע היהודי מרדכי, כאשר החילות ליפול ממנו נפול תיפול. If he is Jewish, Mordechai, you started to fall, you will fall. The Dormita is over. We had a window of chance, and the window was closed. She didn't know how. How did the Jews close the window? We saw it's a year ahead. They closed it in 3 days. Okay? So, if we understand the power of the Megillah, which is so powerful, okay, וזה עניין מרדכי והערתו. דע כי הנה, so you should know that light, that was the light of Mordechai, that silver lining, is so high, it's connected to a place that is the highest place any thought even can get to. Not even a thought can get to. It's higher even than the place we reach on the Ilah of Yom Kippur. The place of that light that was brought down by Mordechai and the Jewish people at that time is higher, so high, that it's beyond even understanding. So, that's why when the Talmud says that when it says the holiest day of the year is called Yom Kippurim, and the Talmud says Kippurim ke Purim, as Purim, trying to be like Purim. What do you want to tell me? That Purim is more important than Yom Kippurim? Yes. Another place in the Talmud says so. When Mashiach comes, when the Messianic days arrive and mankind reaches its completion, there won't be any Rosh Hashanah anymore. There won't be need for that. There won't be Yom Kippur anymore, but there won't be any need for that. There won't be Passover anymore because there won't be any need for that. All the holidays will be cancelled. One will stay, Purim. Because the light that brought down to earth was so powerful, because that light changed the course of history forever. That light was so powerful that the change was so abrupt. And that change, as the Kabbalists are saying, stays. How do we know it stays? Because it says the sages of that generation waited another year after the miracle. They wanted to see with that light reveal itself again on the same day. And they found out. It came back. And they knew that light that came down to earth was so high, so powerful, so shining, it will shine forever till the end of times. And that's why it says in the Megillah, Velo Yasuf Mizao, This light will never come to an end. So, if you understand the power of Purim, it's even higher than Yom Kippurim. Because what is Yom Kippur about? If somebody was sentenced to death, you can change it. You can achieve forgiveness. This is even higher than that. Yom Kippurim already happened. And you still can overcome Yom Kippurim. It's like overrides Yom Kippur. The power of Purim overrides Yom Kippur. Now, if you know a little bit Kabbalah, the lights of Yom Kippurim is coming from Bina. The light of Purim is coming from Yesod of Chokhmah, which is one level higher. But it's not coming from there. It's coming even from higher than that. It's coming from a place that the Zohar speaks about. It's called the Reisha de Light Yada. It's the head that cannot be known. And that's why, in order to tap into it, we drink Ad de Lo Yada. We have to remove our consciousness aside so that light comes in without our thoughts and logic comes in the way. Okay, so how do we tap into that power of Purim? Now that we know that this energy appears every year during the days of Purim. Okay, what are the days of Purim? It says, the way it looks in the Talmud, it says that let's say you're going on a journey and you leave on the 11th of Adar. And you know that when the 14th of Adar is coming, you won't have a Megillah to read. You can read on the 11th. Which means the light of Purim starts to shine on the 11th of Adar already. And it continues and it concludes till the end of the 15th. So it's 5 days of shine that reaches the peak, reaching the peak on the 14th and the 15th. Now, depends, most of the world it's on the 14th. In Jerusalem and some other cities, I don't know which are left from these cities, that were surrounded by a wall during the time of Joshua, which is a whole thing like, why the light appears in these cities differently than in other cities. Okay? I won't go into it. But there's a higher light in Jerusalem, for instance, than in others. That light reaches the peak on the full moon, which is the Shushan Purim. Now, how do we tap into it? So, the instructions are very simple. A, you have to listen to the reading of the Megillah. And by the way, when we read the Torah, which is written on a parchment, right? How do we read the Torah? Both sides are rolled, and only kind of one column, maybe 1.5, depends on the the custom of the community and the Baal Koreh, whatever the structure. Only one column and a little bit more is being revealed. And when you move on, you roll over the right and roll up, down the left. So you move on, and it's only one column exposed at a time. When you're reading the Megillah, you have to unfold the whole thing before you start reading. Why? To imagine it's a long, long Vav reaching from the highest point in the highest worlds all the way down to our place. Okay? And it has the power to come so much down because the Torah, you're not allowed to touch. You're not allowed to touch the Torah while reading. The parchment itself, that's why you touch with the talit, you touch with the finger. Why? It's wired. The height of the forces revealed by reading the Torah are so high, that you can get electrocuted. That's why you're not supposed to touch the Torah, especially when it's being read. Okay? The Megillah, that light is very, very fine-tuned light. It goes all the way down to the lowest places. That's why you can touch it. It's like a Wi-Fi. It's like it affects everything, but it doesn't bother anyone. It cannot burn anyone, but you can't without it, right? You need your connection. But it doesn't burn anyone. It's not like 220 electricity, you can't put your finger in the socket. You have, handle with care, and it's said to be very careful. It's user-friendly. Everybody can tap into it in any way. Okay? So, first of all, the reading of the Megillah, twice. One in the evening and one in the morning. Now, in the evening, it means the whole night. If you could read it in the beginning of the evening, all the way till dawn, you can read the Megillah. Same thing about the day. Couldn't read it in the morning, as long as it's daytime, till sunset, you can read the Megillah for the morning. Okay? So that's about the Megillah. And that's why it's called Megillah, says Dari, Leshon Gilui, for revelation. Tzarich galota ulfarsema, it has to be revealed in the open. Okay? Now, but also Megillah, the way it's written, Mem Gimel Lamed Hey. Gematria, numerical value, 78. 78 is 3 times the name of God, the Tetragrammaton. Youdkevitch, the name of God, Yud and Hey, Vav and Hey, that's 26. 3 times 78. 78, that numerical value, Mazala. Mazala is saying, so it's Gimel Havayot, Kafvav, 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 Sheminyan, Gimel Mochin, De Chabad, De Nei, De Abba. So, translation, Amidgalim Shema Malchut Hai. These are the inner forces that are being revealed in the upper world, the level of Chokhmah, Atzilut, Olam Atzilut, and they are the Mochin of it. They're coming from even higher than that. That's from the Reisha de Light Kedah. That's from the upper Keter. What is Mazala? It's like the 13 attributes coming from that place, which means the whole thing but sweetening all possible judgments. And what does it mean? Any calamity, any negativity, any judgment can be sweetened by that light. And how do you do it? Not by fasting, not by praying the whole day, just reading the Megillah and being happy, celebrate. Okay? And also, the Arizal is explaining the Torah is somehow concealed, that's why you don't see the parchment. But this one is revealed. That's why you have to unfold everything to show that this line is coming from so far above, all the way far below. Now, so what else? So every year, in the days of Purim, in order to establish that illumination, we have to do 3 mitzvot. Kriyat HaMegillah, reading the Megillah. Now think about the word calling, reading. We read about it in Parashat Vayikra. Calling and reading in Hebrew is the same word. By reading the Megillah, we call in that light. We call in the revelation. The revelation out of the concealment. Megillat Esther. The revelation out of the concealment. So everyone who is in concealment, back to back, in trouble, will have the ability to turn it around. And that's v'na'afochu, to turn it around. To turn any negative into positive, which is the ultimate cause of creation. Our creation. Okay? But you need also 2 more. The Megillah is 1. So, the other one is the charity, tzedakah. What is the tzedakah? Says Rabbi Arizal, who is giving the charity? The upper world is giving us charity. It's giving us that shine, right? We are the poor ones. So when we give tzedakah, charity, on Purim, we have to think that when we do that in the physical world, we force the upper world to give charity of light to us the lowest world, which is poor, without light, without actions, without merits. Why? That's what charity is about. Charity you give because somebody is poor, not because he has merits. Right? So if when we do it below, we make the upper worlds do it above, so it will manifest below. And that's the kavanah, the meditation when we do that. And that's tzedakah and the gift to the poor. But there's also another illumination. To force these lights, these essence lights, it's a very, very pure, essential lights, in order to make them reveal and stay after Purim. That's the Seudah of Purim. Seudah. Although people who don't understand Hebrew that well, and that includes a lot of Israelis, Seudah does not mean, now most people translate Seudah as a meal. That's not what it means. The word Seudah is coming from the Shoresh Samech Ayin Daled. Samech Ayin Daled means support. It's not a meal, it's a support. When we eat together and celebrate the holiday together, any holiday, we are creating a support. So the holiness of the holiday will have a support to stay in our plane even after the holiday is gone. We have to bring it down to the physical. That's why a Seudah, it's a spiritual event. It's not feeding. In English, meal means feeding time. Seudah means supporting time. That is, you have even to think that achila, during the food, when you eat the food during the Seudah of Purim, you have to meditate, says the Arizal, that achila is achal Youdkevitch, that you eat from the upper Godhead. And shtiya is shata Youdkevitch, that you drink from the upper Godhead. That the forces that you draw in during the food that you eat and the wine that you drink of the Seudah of Purim, you are bringing all of that light to manifest in a physical body. And that's a Seudah. So you create a physical body of happiness and excitement and sharing and giving and gifts and stuff like this. And that is becoming the vessel to hold the light of Purim, that it will stay even after Purim is over. So the light of Purim stays with us the whole year long. And that is the light of overcoming any kind of darkness, any kind of Amalek. That Amalek is the same gematria as Safek, doubt. What is doubt? That's double hiding, double cover. That's why Safek is the same letters as Pasek, cut off. Cut off. You have no conscious connection to the creation, to the purpose of creation. Everything is just by. It happens because it happened. It's like the survival of the fittest. It's like, it's probabilities. There's nothing, you're kidding, there's nothing behind. That was the most miserable state of existence of a human being. Okay, so all of this, now that we are kind of got it together, as we said also, and that's why do we drink? Because the wine has two things. One, wine draws spiritual light. How do we know? Wine. How do we know? We do it. Every time there's spiritual light, Shabbat. What do you do the first thing to bring it down? Wine, Kiddush. Right? Pesach. Huge amount of light is being revealed. What's the first thing you do physically? Wine. Wedding. Do you know what powers reveal under the chuppah? It's the same energy that was in the temple itself. You want to bring it down? Wine. Wine draws it down. Okay? That's why the wine has to be kosher, because, you know, one of the things about kosher wine is that nobody messed up with it. It's like this wine is ready to draw energy. It didn't have, there was nobody's opinion around inside that wine. Why? Because it's like, you know, when you buy a disc because you want to record something on it. Today don't buy discs, buy a disc on key. Okay? You want to make, you know, you want to be sure that nobody recorded anything on it before, because it's for yours. The wine is for recording of spiritual light. That's why if there are negative people around, says the Zohar, don't touch the wine. If the wine is open, because hatred, bad mouthing, it goes to the wine. Whatever is around goes into the wine. So if it's holiness, it will go into the wine. If it's negativity, it will go into the wine. Don't drink wine with dark people.
Grape juice.
And that's why grape juice also. Grape juice is not bringing the energy so much as wine, but it's kind of a get by. Still, it connects to energies. You don't want it to be exposed to anything but the holiness you want to connect to. Okay, so of course we can go more and more. So as we said, the charities, there's a charity, there's a gifts, you know, the gifts of the exchange of the food. That has to be 2 different kinds of food into two different kind of people, minimum. Okay? And when you do that in order to reveal that light. You don't do it just because it's nice. All the consciousness. So, of course we can go, but that's, for today, I think it is good and it is enough. So thank you. Have a happy Purim and connect to that light and be good.